Hey guys, this is Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. If you're a cyclist, you want to go faster? Then let's giddy up. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Fast U4 by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa, Capital Cycles. Hey, Bike racing on the weekend. 'Twas a biggie. It was probably the most important race of the big spring series I'm doing at the moment, the North Island Team Series, number 3, brought to you by Trust House. Things went well for the FitLab team. I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you what I learned. I'll tell you what doesn't grind my gears, and I will tell you about next week's race, something I've never done before. A mega distance time trial, individual time trial, which I'm slightly terrified about. If you're looking at the screen, this is from yesterday. Me and Mark Donald away on quite a long 2-up time trial breakaway. In the race, let me tell you how that happened. Let's go through the stats. North Island Team Series 3. Yesterday, of course, going up from Martinborough, straight into the hills, going out towards a little settlement called Tora on the coast, famous for its crayfish and surfing. Really cool, interesting, very hard course, taking us through multiple climbs, including one biggie in the first third. Because it's an out and back, we came back over that climb the slightly less steep way on the way back, followed by some little shark's teeth before the final, and a cool little gravel circuit. The weather was a nice 18 to 20 degrees or so, very little wind, lovely day for racing, and like some gift from Jesus, the weather changed to this like slight light rain shower just as we came towards the gravel circuit, which kept the dust down a bit. Couldn't basically have asked for any better. Alright, well, let me tell you how this race played out in the Master 1 grade. Total time 2 hours 14. We had a distance of 80.9 kilometers, climbing of 1,042 meters, so you can see, yeah, quite a lot of going up. Burned 2,249 kilojoules, 50-50 left-right balance, very balanced today. I've just been working on using my left leg a little more. It's worked out. Average speed 36.2, maximum, look at that, 81. That's pretty strong. Yeah, 80. So look at that speed, 81 kilometers an hour, coming down the steep side in the final third of the race. But luckily, not much wind, so it wasn't getting too fruity on that 81 kilometers an hour. So it was handy power, 280 watts for a normalized 323. So that's actually not as strong as it sort of felt, although the first quarter of the race was pretty tame before we got to the big climb. People were saving their powder a bit. Average heart rate 153, and look at that maximum 176. That is about as fast as my heart goes before it explodes, basically. That was done in the final sprint. There was a couple of guys there in that final, and I needed to get points on them, and I needed to sprint them. And evidently it turns out when you really, really need to get the points on people, you'll do extraordinary things to make that happen. I'll tell you about that in a minute, who it was. Cadence 93 in the sweet spot. All right, let's look at what happened. First quarter of the race, over the first little couple of shark's teeth, things were pretty tame. Coming up to the big dog, which was probably the biggest feature of any of the courses of this entire series, the Windmill Hill climb. So this is such a long climb and such a decent gradient we've talked about endlessly that it was always going to split the field, and it did. So let's zoom in here, starting right from the bottom. The heat went on, as it was always going to do, averaging 384 watts for 11 minutes 38. That's closing in on 5 watts per kilo for the entire climb. In fact, the first quarter here was very strong, averaging about 460 watts for the first 2.5, 3 minutes or so. So I was quite surprised at that. Guys weren't really holding back. We had, by about halfway, so most of the field got thinner and thinner over the first 6 minutes or so, and then at about the halfway point, the selection was pretty much in place, apart from a few stragglers. So we're looking at Callum Kennedy, who was riding yesterday for Roadworks, and he's an excellent climber. He was always going to be there. Brendan McGrath made the cut, so did I. Andrew Young from iRide going really well. Matt Webber, Mark Donald. I think that was us. There may have been one or two other guys from Rivet, actually. They may have fallen back later in the piece, who made it. And from that point, because most of the teams were represented, the chase would have come off a little bit. We zoomed down into the valley. We worked pretty well. No, we didn't. We worked like shit. That's right. I was kind of looking around. I was looking at who's in the group, and you know, you can see this period actually where we got into the valley. We were only working at, look at that, average power 200 watts. I mean, we're not doing much. And just before we got to the turnaround, I kind of decided I didn't light it up off the front. I just drifted off the front, but on purpose. I knew what was going on. And I kind of wanted to send out one of those feelers, which was, you know, are the guys going to look around at someone else like Brendan to do the pace, or are they going to keep working and chasing at a decent speed? Well, they didn't. I went off the front, and 50 meters turned into 100 meters, turned into 200 meters. And, you know, I'm not really putting on any hardcore pace. This is, what am I doing here? You know, 320 watts or so, just a nice sub-threshold little tempo. Into the turnaround for about 5 minutes. Came around the turnaround. It was bridged by Mr. Mark Donald. And this part here, from about the halfway point, for the majority of the rest of it, a highlight here was me and Mark working well together. So Mark's a slightly smaller guy from Roadworks. I understand he's a very good time trialist. I can see why, very consistent rider. And it was pretty clear we made a good team, because on the flat I could pull pretty good. On the climbs he was probably slightly stronger, so it forced me to kind of work to stick on his wheel, which is precisely why I had that look on my face in those pictures. And we were both willing to work, which I was a little bit surprised about, because I thought he might potentially sit on me, and with the idea of working for Brendan, but it was okay. It didn't happen. Well, he's a very good rider in his own right, so he did the right thing. You can see for this period of an hour or so, we were away together. An average power of 306, normalized 329, so it's just a really good, solid pace. Okay, so the group would have been chasing, and we could see we were getting time checks. 30 seconds, went out to 50 seconds, went out to close to a minute. And then on these Shark's Teeth coming back in towards the last third into Martinborough, I know, just looking at the Strava data, that the guys were gaining 30 seconds to, 40 seconds on one or two of those climbs. So they were coming back, and by the time we hit the gravel in the last 6Ks of the race, or 10Ks of the race, they were probably 20 to 30 seconds behind us. I put it down pretty hard in the gravel, averaging about EP 321 through the gravel circuit. It was pretty unclear as to whether or not we were going to be caught or not. Unfortunately, we were, with almost exactly 1 kilometre to go. And it's always an interesting moment when a chasing group catches like that, because it's like, well, are they going to be shagged out and, sit in for a second, and that's actually an opportunity for you to go again, which is weird. I tried that. It didn't really come to much. They weren't having it. Brendan was marking me pretty closely. Good for him. Coming into the final 500, things lit up in a pretty standard sprint. So on my stem, I had some guys I needed to mark. Mr. McGrath was one of them. Callum wasn't really one of them because he's only riding a maximum of 3 races. For points, he may not be a threat. Andrew Young was one. Nicholas Monroy was one, but he pulled out, so he wasn't a threat there. Matt Webber, and who else was the other guy? Oh, that was about it. So those are the guys I was really wanting to get ahead of. And you can see if I zoom in on the sprint here, I mean, I basically keep going. What do we put out here? 32 seconds, about just under 700 watts there. Fairly strong for me, uphill, longish sprint. And there's a second kick there where I saw Andrew. I reeled him in and just passed Andrew Young about 10 meters before the line, so that was good. So Matt Webber went backwards a little bit in the sprint, and that was how it worked out. First place, Callum Kennedy, working hard to bring the break back and picking up a solid win. Good for him. Brendan McGrath second, 2 seconds ahead of me in third. Followed by Andrew Young. He got the same time, so we must have been very close on the line, and Matt Webber lost 4 seconds. Mark, who I was away with in the break, lost 10 seconds in the sprint. We had a minute 49 over the next rider, Thomas Goldberg, excellent climber. From Zealand Terriers, 3:33, Andrew Eels, Adam Gosney 4:52, and it was kind of dribs and drabs from there, so things really, really broke up. Last year's winner of the grade, John Randall, I think has picked up almost no points so far this series, but picked up 20, and it's, I guess, one of the things I really like is, you know, like John is such a good dude. He was very congratulatory to me in the end. He's a good man. I really appreciate that. So that's how it worked out in Masters 1 in the elite race. Josh Page from Tank Guy Bike Box in 2 hours 20, taking the win from Matt Webb Smith, who was riding like savage in the same team. Marty Hartley Brown, but I mean, look at that. What do we got? 14 finishes, 16 riders in all. That field is decimated this weekend because of the Southland Tour going on down south. So none of the Wheelworks guys there, and some other teams not there. My man Toby Fuller coming in 11th, but FitLab rider, if you look at Toby's watts per kilo on some of those climbs, he's a straight up savage. You do not want to be in a hill climb time trial against Toby Fuller. Let me tell you, there is a man who can go up hills. All right, and results in Masters 2. Had Brent all class Backhouse taking it from in a really good sprint from Hope Buke and Rob Kilvington. It kind of wasn't so much a bunch sprint as it just spread out. You can see, like, look at the results. You got Ian Paynton, who's a real climber, and then Gary Anderson. Oh, he's pretty class because he still picked up 5th. 2 minutes 31 back though. So look at those guys: Hobe, Brent, and Rob. So it just tells you about the nature of this course. This was a climber's course, not a flat power guys course, not a sprinter's course. But Gary, it's interesting. I don't know how the points situation is going to be working out. They haven't updated it yet, but it's going to be very close between Hobe and Gary. So Masters 2 is really getting hot. I kept the jersey in Master 1. I don't know how the points are going to work out totally, but I suspect Mr. McGrath will be just behind me. Andrew Young will be up there as well, so will Matt Webber. So it will be doit like a doiga. All right, so yeah, what what I was going to talk about next was what I learned, and I think it kind of follows on from what I said last week. And in a nutshell, that is the idea of doing the unexpected. So last week I talked about taking freebies. Well, this week I sort of thought do the unexpected. So what that means is if a group of guys bridge to you and it's not really expected that you're going to be the guy to attack again, well, attack again. If you're a group of riders and there's an opportunity and they're not really working that well, but it's not expected that you will attack because you're away in a selection, it's a teams race, well, it's unexpected to go, and as long as it's not the wrong thing to do, do the unexpected. And why do you want to do the unexpected? Well, people will look around, they will not chase. And if you're not a terrible time trialist, you can kind of get away with that. I mean, look, me and Mark almost got away from a quality group of riders there who were motivated to work. Caught in the last K. Okay, it didn't work out, but it kind of worked out. I mean, they dropped some of the other guys who were in that group who could have got some points. So it's like just because you don't win, what you do and the unexpected thing you do in the race can change the shape of the race. And it's not all about just your placing, it's about how other guys go. If it's a series like this, it's much more strategic than just tactical on the day. And so I just say do the unexpected. That's just another tactic in your toolbox. And sometimes doing the unexpected is hard because it hurts. Sometimes it doesn't even hurt at all. The last couple of times I've drifted off the front, it doesn't hurt at all. It's fun. It's just putting out feelers. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt your chances. You're not really burning any matches or using energy. Just because you're doing the unexpected can sometimes be just as good or as powerful a tool in a road race as having some devastating sprint or being a great hill climber. That doing the unexpected and thinking things through is quite a weapon to have. So this week, what doesn't grind my gears, I just want to say, after these races, I mean, I know this is amateur racing, but, guys invest a lot of time and energy and thought into this, so these races are still pretty serious. I've had a number of guys, just everyone, come and say, congrats, Steve, getting the jersey. It was a good race, well done. They're saying, oh, it was ride of the day. Brendan McGrath said, oh, it was ride of the day. They went away like that. But that could also apply to his teammate, Mark Donald, as well. Andrew, everyone really congratulatory about getting the jersey and having a good ride. And that is what does not grind my gears. In other words, I really appreciate and like the sort of camaraderie in the group. There is no bad feelings. I almost feel like, if I ran out of water or something and I really needed a drink, I mean, I'll probably get, handed a bottle from another team or something. I won't be trying that, but I just mean it's like a very good thing. And I'd sure as hell do that. I'd give squeezies or anything to other riders from other teams because you want to keep up the goodwill. And it kind of reminds me of that picture of, there's this famous picture of, I don't know, it's like Fausto Coppi or something, being handed a bottle by someone on the, I don't know, like the Isward or something, and like the, 1943 or something, Tour de France. And that's, I think that is an important part of racing, and it's an important part of life. Like for me, there's a flip side to this, which is treat everyone as good as you can the first time you meet them, and keep treating them that way as reciprocated. But if someone proves that they are not trustworthy or a bad person, within reason, I think you need to write those people off in your life and make them dead to you. And I know that sounds really harsh, but I don't really give people second chances. If you are a kind, generous, good-hearted person, I think you should treat them like that. And if they're not, well, yes, you can write them off and not really have anything to do with it. It doesn't mean you have to treat those people badly or do anything. It's just that they're of not They're not interest to me. I'm not going to try to help them. I'm not going to try to fix them. I'm not going to try to make their life better. I'm not going to be charitable towards them. It's just, they just know what they are. That's fine. They can do what they like. They might not like me either. Good for them. But they're just not people I want to invest time or energy into. And I think in sort of wider philosophical sense, that's not a bad way to go through life. That's not a bad wiring. It's probably attributable to a smarter philosopher than I, but treat everyone as good as you can the first time you meet them, and after that, treat them as they treat you. I like that one. I think it applies to bike racing, strangely enough. All right, race next weekend is a weird one. This is called the Rua 50. It's an 80-kilometre time trial, and it used to beat me why they called it the 50, but that's because it's 50 miles. And it's probably not 50 miles, because 50 miles probably ends up being like, I don't know, like 79.5 kilometres, but you feel me. This is an 80-kilometre individual time trial around Lake Wairarapa, and it is 80. It's like literally, I think it's like 79.96 kilometres or something when you measure it on the Stravas, and I don't even know if their satellite can be that accurate. So it's exactly 80 k's. Now, because it's such a long individual time trial, I've had to make some changes. I'll be riding standard time trial bike, actually standard time trial setup. I've been doing a lot of just recovery riding on the turbo trainer in TT position. It's really important to get your body used to that position. So some other changes I'll be making. I'll be using a Camelback with a 2-litre bladder underneath my skin suit, and that has a nice secondary benefit of being more aero in terms of like not having bottles on your bike. But because of the shape of the way that it molds to your helmet, is it provides a better aero drag. And I'll be interested to look at my data, but these things sound really anal, but as a matter of fact, over 80 Ks, if you can reduce your drag and get an extra 5-10 watts, I mean, that's huge. That's like minutes off your time for the sake of these small aero gains. As long as the weather isn't crazy, I'll be riding a Zip Super 9 disc 404 up the front. And going for, I've looked at course record data from my teammate Lee Campbell, who holds the record in 1 hour 54, which is storming. That's 42 kilometre an hour average. To get just a squeak above that at my aero drag, about 0.24 CDA, I'm going to need about 300 to 305 watts. So that is attainable, I know, from my power curve data, so I will be looking to tap that out. That should keep me just under my lactate 2, and that should allow me a little bit of ability to open up in the final to get some time. So I'm hoping to get the course record this weekend, barring any disaster. As is one of my riders who is coming up all the way from tropical Dunedin to attempt to take the women's record away from Kim Hurst. My buddy Helen Monster Beatty has also, we've worked through her targets, and she knows her power and drag targets for the race. And barring weirdness, that should be good. So we'll be looking for some good rides this weekend there. I'll be doing some other little mods. For instance, there's no pockets on my skin suit, so I'll be taking some gels that are taped behind the stem. One gel every half hour. So they're taped behind the stem, obviously for aero. The fluid, of course, is in the backpack. I'll be drinking Tailwind, 1 litre per hour, which I've measured out is what I need. No extra weight, good aero, and ideal rehydration. Darling, could you just maybe take that in the other room for a minute? Thank you, sweetheart. And I don't know, I might even have half a power bar or something at about the halfway point. I've also on my stem, hello sweetheart, also on my stem measured out, done some benchmarks using the time distance calculator on the Google. So for example, I need to cover 20 kilometers in whatever it is, X time, 28 minutes or something like that, 27 minutes, and I just want to keep benchmarking on the way. And one other thing I'll mention about things that are important in especially a long individual time trial like this, where it's not so much an out and back, it's a circuit around a lake. The physics works out that if you're punching into a wind, you want to bring your power up a little, and if you've got a tailwind or a descent, you want to just use those as opportunities to recover a little from those efforts, and that will get you a better time overall. So there's a couple of tips. That's what I'll be doing. Never done this before. I've never been in my time trial position for more than an hour. I'm hoping it's not as painful as I expect. It probably will be. I'll be strapping up my neck with some kinesio tape, I think, to help hold my noggin up. And using any advantage I can get to maintain, hopefully looking at 310, 315, maybe 320 watts for the 2 hours. That would be nice, and that should, assuming my drag analysis is right, squeak me in about 1 hour 50, so 1 hour 50, 1 hour 52. That would be delicious. I'd be happy with that. That would be a course record. So I'd like to see it happen. So excited for that race on the weekend. Following that, there'll be race 4 of the North Island Series, and then another weekend, and then the final, race 5. So things are getting fruity, and the situation is becoming clearer. I want to keep that orange jersey, guys. Alright, as always, this is brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa, and Capital Cycles. If you would like a coaching plan from me, you can go to fitlab.co.nz, or you can email me, steve@fitlab.co.nz. I will see you on the weekend. Thanks for watching / listening to Fast You Fall, brought to you by FitLab, Capital Cycles, Tailwind Nutrition, and Biomaxa. If you'd like to get in touch for a coaching program or testing, you can get hold of me, steve@fitlab.co.nz, or go to fitlab.co.nz. Talk soon, guys.